So you have found this video in hopes to find out the most straightforward way to get into your very own sim rig. A little disclaimer. This video is not going to tell you which rig to get. It's not even going to be a review. This is simply my process going from no sim rig to a fully built sim rig. Step number one that I took is setting a budget. I figured I wanted the modular form factor of 80/20. I wanted the rigidity to hold a direct drive wheelbase, so 80/20 definitely fell perfectly into my lap with cost versus value. Step number two would be, what discipline are you looking for? Are you looking for more of an all-around rig for drifting, GT3, iRacing, rally type gameplay? Are you looking for like a formula style? 80/20 still can be built around all of that. It just might take a little bit more effort to put into the design. Step number three would be finally figuring out your design. This is taking measurements of your room, figuring out where it's going to fit, figuring out how far away you want the pedals to be from the seat, figuring out where you want the seat to be in relation to your wheel deck. Again, with 80/20, the beauty of it is this can all be changed after you actually build it. Step 3A, I'm going to call this, is after I figured out what the overall design I was going for, I needed to figure out how long I could have the rig to fit my height at 6'4", and some reviews that I watched online recommended that the GT1 Evo was perfect to fit their overall body, and I kind of based my whole sim around the open schematics that SimLabs has of the GT1 Evo to kind of give me that initial head start for overall dimensions and lengths of certain parts that I might not normally know. After fully deciding on what kind of rig and the overall length that I wanted on my rig, they have some software called Frame Designer, which is an 80/20 CAD software that will allow you to build the design that you have in your head and actually visualize what it looks like. And this is what I came up with. I have a mount over here that could have my shifter and my handbrake. I have my wheel deck mount, which can be adjusted up or down height-wise. I have my pedal deck, which I can show in person to get kind of understand this better, because I had a very tough time like visualizing what would happen in real life once I actually built it. I can actually tilt the pedal deck in a downward slope to kind of grab a different feel. I can have it flat like this. Again, very hard for me to visualize without actually seeing it in person, so I can make a little clip on that and include it. I added these little posts so I can have the pedal deck kind of have a more severe slant, but again, it's kind of hard to visualize right now. And then I went ahead and I took some other dimensions from a company's monitor mount and kind of recreated that in this software. And then I have these brackets which I can position on these cross beams where a VESA mount would go, and then I secured that with the bolts that would fit into the G9, which again I can show that because it's kind of hard to visualize from just a visual standpoint. So now that you have the frame designed in the CAD software, it's now time to actually go ahead and go forward with purchasing your extrusion. To me, T-Nuts is the closest location for extrusion production, and I went through them. They're great. I highly recommend them. Their customer support is fantastic. They do only work within 15 series and 10 series. I went with 15. I do not notice any flex. I know the closest comparison, from what I understand, is the 40 series, which is just metric versus imperial. So I transferred over everything from the frame designer into a spreadsheet to kind of keep it organized. And right here, I'm going to go and purchase the two base portions of the frame, which are the two longest parts, which are 54 inches. I'm going to need to add two of these for both sides. You don't need any of the taps unless you find that you actually do. And then there you go. It adds it right into your cart. Now I'm going to go and back to the spreadsheet and figure out the length of the seat rails for where the seat is actually going to mount to. I'm going to use the light version of the extrusion since it's a little bit cheaper and it's not going to be under direct force. I'm going to add the dimensions, add 2 of these to the cart, and your seat can now be mounted to your rig. It's as simple as that. Alright, so take note, none of this includes any of the mounting hardware. Again, I went through the frame design and I added all the gussets to the spreadsheet so I would be able to add them at the end. So to add the gussets, we need to go to corner bracket, 15 series, and then for parts like that is going to be under a lot of load, so like your wheel deck, I went with, where are they? I went with the 15 series 2-hole inside corner gussets. They look a little bit more sturdy than these. I went with these for the monitor to have a little bit of play that I can adjust the monitor, either tilt up or tilt down. And then these I used for mounting the seat to the frame, which isn't going to be under a lot of stress, but for something like where the holding up the wheel deck or holding the wheel deck to the actual frame, I went with the slightly beefier gussets. Once you find the gusset that you want, you can click on it, and however many you need for your specific rig, hopefully you've done all that out in a spreadsheet similar to like what I've done. You can add however many you need, and you can also add mounting hardware with it, which I would highly recommend. It makes the process a lot easier. So sticking with metric, you're going to come back up here, you're going to check off the box that's hardware required, and then you can add them to your cart, and boom, it will add however many. So if you have 10, it will add 10 more sets of screws, so you will have mounting hardware for all of your gussets. Alright, so after a couple minutes unpackaging everything from this hot mess to a couple of clean piles. Time to start building. Starting to assemble the frame, just showing what I'm doing. Taking the T-nut, securing it to the M8 bolt, and then sliding it into the profile. Like so. Did the same thing with the other one. And then I will take 2 more T-nuts and slide them into the profile like so, which is how this whole thing goes together. And then I will flip this and line up the T-nuts with the other M6 bolts. Alright, so just an update about halfway through the sim rig. I have it pretty much fully assembled, just the rig part. I have some of the connectors that are kind of loose, and just to show how everything kind of fits together. And then the pedal deck is very modular, so I can just adjust these bolts on the corner, and the beams can slide up and down. And then to mount pedals, I will have these like this to allow for the pedals to be mounted to here. And then being able to slide this, I can adjust the height, the distance, and angle that I want the pedals to be at, which is pretty awesome. I still have to go get the seat, which will be pretty soon here. It's been raining pretty much, so can't get out to the junkyard, and we'll see how it goes. Next up, I'm gonna have to build the monitor mount, which you guys will see pretty soon. Alrighty, just an update here. We are at the junkyard. We have found a pretty good sim seat here. I got my bag of tools and I'm working on getting this thing out right now. And this seat's gonna be pretty nice after a really solid deep clean. So yeah, once I pull this thing out, we'll load it into the truck and get this thing installed on the rig after a solid clean. Alright, and 10 minutes later, we have this beaut, which is coming out of a Mazda 3 2004, judging from the insurance paperwork that I found. But after a pretty solid deep clean, she'll be good to go. Deep clean completed. The seat rails line right up on the 80/20 profile. I threw some T-nuts underneath the bolts, and it secures very nicely. Jumping up to the wheelbase now, as you can see, the two profile pieces have angled brackets on the inside of them, which can be moved around to any mounting position that you would like, which secures the DD very nicely and very, very secure. It is rock solid. Now I'm going to be jumping over to the handbrake and shifter. The handbrake had a little bit of an issue because the mounting holes that Fanatec made were a little bit too small. Nothing that a drill bit can't fix. I opened those up a little bit more and it worked perfectly. And then we have more angled brackets going into the threaded taps on the underside of the Fanatec shifter. Works great. Here we have the pedals being mounted to the cross beams with simple bolts and T-nuts on the inside of the profile. Very straightforward. And to finish off the build, we have some caster wheels that I bought off of Amazon that I'll have linked in the description. They're 1.5-inch threads, which I just took an angle grinder and cut the threads actually in half to make it fit more flush with the 80/20 profile. They work fantastic. And that concludes my A through Z sim racing build. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to all of them. Hopefully you look forward to seeing more racing content in the future. Peace.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.